it is a privilege. It's a privilege. White people, white privilege, beneficiary of white privilege, white and privilege. White person. There are guns. I mean, the NRA is running the Republican Party. Yes, that is that is the worst. It's like the pinnacle of white privilege. There is a privilege. White racism. White people, white privilege, and I think white privilege is a white people's problem, a white person's problem, and it's up to us to find some solutions to that problem.
I'm not hearing what you think. I'm hearing how you're able to represent the ideology you were taught. And it's not that interesting because I don't know anything about you. I could replace you with someone else who thinks the same way. And that means you're not here. That's what it means. It's not pleasant.
Well, happy new year and new decade to all of you who have continued to support The Quartering. I know people are busy this week, viewership is spotty, but you know what? I'm not one of those people that says, well, I get slightly less views during this period of time, so I'm just not going to work. Or say, I'm going to take my vacation in January because ad rates are lower. No, I always work. I will work for you every day as long as I am able. So I'm glad that you're here and I'm glad I can entertain and inform. Now, a new article about a new Marvel show on Hulu dropped, and it is so spicy. We know that Marvel is increasingly interested in being super woke. Now, I still say, though, that because it's Disney, we can expect that really Marvel is just pandering. That isn't to say that I have any problem at all with specific types of characters in the Marvel universe. I mean, it's a world where superheroes exist. Of course, there's going to be trans folks and gay folks and aliens and zombies and whatever. It's all, I mean, that's like the least that I have to believe in. You know what I mean? But as I've always stated, it's the pandering that's annoying because we know they don't really care. I can give you numerous examples of why Disney doesn't care. Let me give you just two. Very recently, the Star Wars film saga has been caught reducing the size of black character John Boyega's or Finn for Chinese movie posters because I can only assume they don't like black people. I don't know, but can you give me another reason why you would take a main character of the movie, shrink him and place him in the back, put him in the back of the bus, so to speak, if they didn't have any problem with black folks? Nobody gets outraged about that. By the way, here in the United States, all these slacktivists who get upset that somebody said a mean word on Twitter continue to ignore this is like openly racist against John Boyega and black folks, and Disney is okay with it. If Disney had any kind of spine whatsoever, they would say no, absolutely not. How about how every major article here in the West lauded and got down on both knees to accept the mouse cream on their faces because they had an innocuous girl-on-girl kiss. Something that is they referred to as groundbreaking and revolutionary, even though just about everybody on this planet has seen two girls kiss. But what did Disney do? They cut it. They allowed it to be cut in many countries because of their own backwards beliefs. Now, if Disney had any true belief in these things, they would say, no, absolutely not. If we look at what they did in Singapore, they weren't even faced with not having the film show there. All they were faced with was a slightly higher rating, which means they weren't even losing all the money. They were losing some of the money, and they weren't willing to do that. So every time Disney and Marvel panders like this, I'm going to be right here to remind everyone that they don't mean it and that they're just interested in the money. Now, Bounding into Comics placed an article about the new superhero, Marvel superhero show that's coming to Hulu, a show called Tigra and Dazzler. This show is described as Tigra Dazzler, according to Variety, is about two woke superheroes and best friends as they fight for recognition among powered people. Why didn't they say people of power? Who make up the 8 million stories in Los Angeles. Chelsea Handler, human garbage, remains attached to the show and will voice one of the main characters. Congratulations. Now, the show, shockingly, has had a good bit of drama early on, losing some of the early showrunners and things like that, having big shakeups. I wonder why. It's almost like these super woke people can't get along in the regular workplace. This according to Marvel's website. Marvel's Tigra Dazzler show creators on their unexpected team-up series. Chelsea Handler and Erica Rivenya are bringing two Marvel heroes to Hulu in a new animated series. I love that. You always have this weird, I don't know this for a fact, right? But when you talk about having cartoons that are also super woke, you wonder who they're targeting. We talked about this with She-Ra, and I received immense backlash from the blue-haired troglodytes of Twitter saying, oh, the show's not for you. It's not for you. Why are you saying this? Oh, you can't, well, you don't like it because they turned a beautiful woman into a 13-year-old boy-looking woman. Ugh, well, you can't fap to it. Even though none of my complaints were about any of that in particular. It was just that, in my opinion, that show has propaganda qualities. And when they make cartoons, I just believe, it's my belief, that they're targeting young kids with a message that they believe they need to be targeted with, and it's propaganda. Now, according to Bounding into Comics, Marvel's Tigra Dazzler show creator, Chelsea Handler, wants white women to realize the damage Donald Trump has caused to non-white people. Marvel's Tigra Dazzler show creator, Handler, took to Twitter, quote, I hope the 53% of white women who voted for Trump in 2016 realize the damage he has caused people who are not white. She added, I hope 2020 they can think about what it's like to not be them. This is very typical Hollywood elitist anti-white sentiment. I don't really know. It's weird saying that. It's weird. But here we are. If she had said something like black women damaging white women, people would have canceled her in a heartbeat. This is just more anti-white rhetoric from super rich Hollywood elites. And really, these people give true liberals a bad name because they'll call themselves a liberal or they'll call themselves progressive, but they're not. They're regressive. They're extreme in their viewpoints, and they're openly bigoted all the time. But, it's against the right people. This is the same woman who said she had a midlife identity crisis once he won. So she's been suffering TDS for a very long time.
My reaction to the election was not healthy. And my outrage was so high that I had to get my together.
Handler has quite a long history over the last 4 years of attacking the president. Well, critiquing, I suppose. Handler has been quite politically active. She even went so far as to claim that his election was a trigger for childhood trauma. I wouldn't call what she does active. It's Twitter. And as I've always, I'm starting to anyway, try to put things in perspective for people who think that Twitter is even close to a cross-section of society. It isn't. It's populated by mostly looker-ons, where, as I said, 90% of the generated tweets are created by less than 10% of the people. So there's always this weird sentiment that like, oh, it's trending on Twitter, it must be popular. But then if you unplug from the internet and you go talk to an every man or an every woman, they don't know anything about it. They don't know about this stuff because they don't care. Regular people aren't really on Twitter, and if they are, it's to follow nobodies corporations and things like that. Anyway, during an interview with Trevor Noah on The Daily Show, she talked about how him winning the election changed much for her. She pointed out that the election warped her worldview. I can't deal with this reality, she continued. I felt like the world has become unhinged. She also associated the president's election with her brother's death, who stated that he's represented to me what happened when I was 9 years old, and my brother said he was coming back and he never came back. I mean, who talks like this? She's currently serving as executive producer for Unspeakable, a half-hour comedy starring Mary McCormack. The show is based on a book by Megan Daum, which follows a 45-year-old woman in her life. The show is in pre-production. Well, Dazzler and Tigra apparently isn't for me. Never will be. You know, in Marvel's Tigra and Dazzler show, two woke supervillains or heroes are best friends, Tigra and Dazzler. And this is, by the way, on Marvel. This is Marvel's words, again, the woke quote. So now I know where that came from. So even Marvel is using the language of the woke. Asked about what it felt like to write an upcoming Hulu series, Handler said, "We're excited to be the token lady show in the lineup, and we're so thrilled to finally bring the world the cat lady and roller skating pop star that they've been begging for." I'm sure this show will be awful. I'm sure the show will have one season, maybe. Although I said that about She-Ra, and it's still around. I'm assuming that there's this market that is for mentally stunted millennials. Now, this is the 22 to 30-year-old person, female and male, who, while many of us do enjoy some nostalgia and some things from our childhood, they've embraced like children's shows, cartoons like My Little Pony or, you know, Steven Universe, or they're watching all these little kid shows because they literally can't handle reality. There's nothing wrong with enjoying a show or two here and there. I mean, as with anything. But when you see shows like She-Ra, which are super woke, or you have, Tigra and Dazzler, I don't believe that there isn't some message, some planning behind it to push an agenda. I don't believe that their priority is to entertain. And while it's okay to educate, I don't think what they're doing is educating. They would call it that, but I would call it indoctrinating. I'm sure this show will be yet another disaster, and it'll be hilarious to watch critics give it a 99%, and the super woke, man children and female children of Twitter talking about how great it is, just like they did with She-Ra. And then they can just continue to live in their perpetuating childhood while the rest of us get up and go to work every day and deal with real problems. I hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you again real soon.